Voting is a civic duty. Let's register on the electoral list. This is a message from Equinoxe Television.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's 6 p.m. in Douala. It's time for the news in the English language on Equinoxe Television. Thank you so much for being with us. Our major stories tonight. It's already 1 year since over 40 persons lost their lives following a building which collapsed at the Mobile Guinness neighborhood here in the economic capital, Douala. 1 year after, our reporters went back to the scene and they'll tell us more in this edition of the news, what they saw and what they heard. Plus, laughter as well as tears in most homes and examination centers after the publication or release of the General Certificate of Education examinations, the GCE. The GCE this year also witnessed a drop of about 9% in the overall performance. We spoke with some students and we will get their reactions also in this news edition. Those are our major stories. Details when we come back. Welcome back, viewers. Thank you so much for the confidence. It is exactly 1 year after about 40 persons lost their lives following a building which collapsed that was at the Mobile Guinness neighborhood here in the economic capital, Douala. Our reporters went back to the scene 1 year after and told us, or tell us in this report, that what they saw was just a sham. Innocent Aze was at Mobile Guinness today.
A year after the 4-story building collapsed at Mobile Guinness Douala Fire Subdivision, killing over 35 occupants, the incident site is quiet, bushy, and gradually becoming a trash pit for surrounding residents. While visiting the place, some victims and witnesses had returned there in remembrance of their loved ones who perished in the rubble on July 23, 2023. This victim, who was put out of the rubble and survived, unfortunately lost his wife and a daughter. He says the memory is stamped on his mind, though not traumatized anymore. A recall of what happened pierces his heart. It hurts badly, he says. Speaking on phone to Richard Neba, a resident who lost his fiancée, he says he has no choice than accept the fate and move on.
I'm just like that. I even have a small job that I'm trying to do. As we're preparing to do this 1 year event, we just focus our mind there to do it, and after that, life will just continue.
Also asked whether they benefited the promised financial assistance from the Douala City Council and the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, they laughed before explaining the prank.
Up to date, the government has not done anything to us. Administrative offices, we drop document there, and the only thing they reply us is that we should be happy that we are even living.
Rien du tout, parce que
at the City Council, they made us wander from one office to another. At one point, we were asked to bring the birth certificates of those we lost. How do they expect us to have the birth certificates? Nothing was retrieved. I think it was a way to close the file. We left and never went back there.
Imaginez, comme vous voyez là, personne n'a rien récupéré.
Since then, these victims had to move on and restart life.
Commencer à oublier, même comme je sais que c'est pas facile, mais j'essaie de voir comment est-ce que je vais reconstruire ma vie.
Like this 1 year that we are doing like that. After this, we just know that everything is finished. Everybody will just go ahead with his own life. That's all. We don't expect anything again from the government.
The last reward will be an ecumenical mass to be offered on Saturday, July 27, 2024 for their deceased loved ones.
And now we talk education. The new divisional delegates for secondary education for the Vuri division, Natalie Moen, has been urged to fight against the proliferation of clandestine schools in her area of command. She was also encouraged to give a listening ear to the plight of teachers in the Vuri. This was during her installation ceremony, which was presided over by the senior divisional officer for the Vuri division. Lucy Liengu is here. What's there?
Natalie Moen takes command as the divisional delegate of secondary education for the Vuri division. She replaces Monique Bango Eboa, who goes on retirement. During her installation ceremony at the Government Technical High School, Kumasi, she was reminded of the daunting task ahead by the Senior Divisional Officer of Wuri, who presided the ceremony. For instance, addressing the problem of the existence of clandestine schools, as the littoral region tops the list with at least 67 clandestine schools published by the Minister of Secondary Education. She is also expected to ensure that teachers in her area of command are present during their working hours and their grievances are looked into before the start of the next academic year to avoid the occurrence of the unnatural supporté, unnatural attendu strike actions. The Senior Divisional Officer, Siliak Marie Vogo, encouraged the new divisional delegate to work hand in glove with teachers.
We should do our best in order to help our children to succeed in their studies. We address our congratulations to the new delegate, and we promise that we will collaborate with her in order to help her to succeed.
The former principal of the government secondary school, Nilondo Pasi, says she and her team are ready and apt for the position.
Nous allons prendre le temps de mesurer le travail à abattre devant nous. Mais qu'à cela ne tienne, nous sommes prêts.
The new divisional delegates can also count on her collaborators who say she merits the position. Monique Bango Eboa, the outgoing divisional delegate of secondary education for Wuri, has been a teacher for 30 years and has served as delegate for 3 years.
And we also told you in the headlines that results of the GC examinations have also been released, and there was tears of joy, and also laughter, as well as tears of sorrow among the students whom we met in Bunaberi here in Douala today. We will be coming to their reactions in the course of this news edition. Now we take you to Boya days after a road accident which left at least 2 persons dead around the Great Support Market in Boya. The Great Support authorities and local authorities in Boya have demolished structures besides the market. According to them, it is to ease circulation around the Great Support Market. Cedric Chakutsio tells us more.
Within the framework of the ongoing fight against urban disorder within Boya, the Boya Municipal Council went from words to action, destroying the material of business operators selling at the edge of the road in the Great Support Market, an operation not welcomed by traders who already face difficulties selling their goods in the area.
Now, for move to the main road, we have inside on us, about drive people outside. So see what they are doing. What they do for you, you know, correct. They don't the box store anyhow. They do this. They don't want to say move now. On a say move for 10 minutes here, on a move for armband. Because various persons don't understand how they now. So now the everyone living, they move you for waiting. Why do they drive? They don't even go inside.
For local authorities, the circulation in the market must be fluent, this to limit aggressions and accidents.
Despite all amicable and peaceful talk with them to cause them to relocate, they are not willing. And prior to a prefectorial order instructing the mayor to ensure that the action is taken, we are just here this morning to enforce the action as we agreed in a meeting between the traders and council authorities.
This operation comes after an accident at the Great Support Market where 2 people were reported dead. In the context of insecurity, the Boya Municipal Council has an objective to maintain peace and order.
Now we come back to the results of the GCE which were released yesterday. Despite a slight drop in the percentage of the 2024 GCE results, many students registered a pass. In the city of Douala, we met with some successful candidates of GBHS Bonaberi and other schools who expressed their joy in the following report compiled by Mala Glory.
As the 2024 GCE results were published, it was a jubilation and joy among successful candidates. Talking to some students of Government Bilingual High School Bonnerberry and SET and Belmont College, they expressed their feelings.
I passed with 3 papers. I'm so happy. I thank the teachers.
I had 4 papers. While those of other parents who are not satisfied with their children's result, other parents are proud.
O-level commission. One of my children had the specialty pass at the A-level commission in accounting, and the other one has 10 subjects at O-level. So I'm very, very happy for this result.
Meantime, contented teachers and school administrators give a pat on the back of those who made it.
I want to thank the students for the marvelous result that they have given to us this session. In fact, Inside College recorded one of the best results within the Bonnerberry area, and that's thanks to hard work.
We have recorded a number of 100% for some specialties.
However, some actors of the sector are not happy with this year's success and think it's time for the authorities to re-evaluate teaching strategies and method.
It is unacceptable that we should have a 7+ % drop, as much as it is better compared to what we saw with our sister exams, the baccalaureate exams, which witnessed almost a 50% drop. 7+% to us is still unacceptable, and I think this should already start giving reasons to the authorities to consider instituting receipt exams for our secondary school certifications.
The GCE result 2024 registered a national pass of 60.80%, a slight drop compared to last year.
In other news, the extraordinary board meeting of the National Hydrocarbons Corporation has come and gone without the much anticipated wind to sweep away the company's Director General, who has been in office largely beyond the length of time stated by the law governing state enterprises in the country. Babila Jonathan read through the statement released after the board meeting and now tells us more about the outcome of the gathering of directors at the presidency. His report.
Director General of the National Hydrocarbons Corporation, better known by its French language acronym SNH, Adolphe Moudeki, maintains his position, a position he has held for the past 31 years in violation of the 1999 law revised in 2017 stipulating a maximum of 9-year term for Director Generals and Deputy Director Generals of state enterprises in Cameroon. Before the extraordinary board meeting that took place in the Unity Palace, speculations were rife that he was going to be kicked out of that position of responsibility. After the board meeting, nothing has been said about that. The board of directors suspended the adoption of the budget execution report and accounts for the 2023 fiscal year. The decision was made during the extraordinary session presided at by the chairman of the board of directors of the company, Ferdinand Gongo. According to a statement released after the extraordinary board meeting, the reason for the suspension is a controversial investment made by the company without the knowledge of the head of state and the board of directors. The company purchased a 10% stake in Codco, formerly owned by Savannah Energy, without authorization. Despite the setback, SNH produced 7,516 million barrels of oil and 922,000.94 million cubic meters of natural gas as of April 30, 2024. The sales of oil and gas have also generated significant revenue for the state. The company transferred 174,228 billion francs CFA to the public treasury after deducting charges. Additionally, the company paid 25,267 billion francs CFA in taxes and duties to the state. Without details, the statement highlights appointments made by the board of directors and the renewal of the term of office of the company's financial secretary and members of the Contracts Award Commission.
Now we take you out of our national frontiers to Kenya. Kenya's President William Ruto has appointed 4 members of the main opposition party as part of a new cabinet as protests continue to rock the East African nation. And over to the US of A, President Joe Biden gives reasons for his withdrawal from the presidential election to take place in November. Our reporter Cedric Chakutu has details of those stories and more.
Kenyan President William Ruto on Wednesday, July 24th, named 4 ministers from the main opposition party in a bid to form a broad-based government. Hassan Joho was nominated as Cabinet Secretary for Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs. Wycliffe Operanya was designed as Cabinet Secretary for Cooperatives, John Badi at the National Treasury Ministry, and Opio Wandai at Energy. The 4 politicians were part of a batch of 10 nominees. They are close allies of the Orange Democratic Movement leader. This comes despite a warning by the party's leader, Raila Odinga. In his first batch of appointment last week, Kenya's president retained 6 former cabinet ministers. Protesters on social media accused the opposition of betrayal, some alleging a secret deal was broken. The nominees still need to get the green light by parliament. Elsewhere in the United States of America, President Joe Biden framed the decision to end his re-election campaign as a defense of democracy in an Oval Office address last Wednesday night.
My record as president, my leadership in the world, my vision for America's future, all merited a second term. But nothing can come in the way of saving our democracy. That includes personal ambition. So I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. That's the best way to unite our nation. I revere this office, but I love my country more. It's been the honor of my life to serve as your president.
Joe Biden, who has ceded to heavy pressure from within his own party to step aside as a candidate, cast his choice as one made in the interest of the nation and called on Americans to join him to preserve democracy. The speech, which came 3 days after he dropped his bid, is the beginning of Biden's efforts to shape his legacy following a disastrous debate performance in late June that left members of his party calling for him to step off the campaign trail and allow another candidate to run against Trump. Many Democrats believed Biden's bumbling debate performance and halting push to clean it up made his path to re-election impossible.
And that was what we put together for you in the first part of the news. Don't go away, Talking Points comes up next. Welcome back, viewers. Today we'll be talking about the performance at the General Certificate of Education Examination, the GCE, this year. And our guest tonight is a vice principal, a teacher, and also an educationist. She also headed one of the examination centers here in Douala. Njita Elodie Pusmudo, thank you so much for accepting to be our guest on Talking Point tonight. Like I mentioned earlier, the GCE results have been published. That was yesterday. There is jubilation, like we said in the news, as well as tears among the students. You headed one of the examination centers in Douala. What's your appraisal, general appraisal of the results this year, the results of the GCE?
Speaking from my end, the results weren't really that good because there is a drop in performance. The overall statistics from nationwide was 67, which dropped to 60 this year. So looking at that, it's not really good. First things first, I'm going to say most parents have neglected their duty in as much as the follow-up of their children is concerned. Because you will see most parents abandoning the study of their children in the hands of the children and the school. Then the second thing is social media. When I talk of social media, most of these students do have phones and they are mostly distracted. Imagine a student going to study and the student has to leave the data on when he's doing a research. In less than no time, when WhatsApp messages coming or Facebook, they must be distracted. So they need absolute follow-up. Another thing too, which I also did mention, that the follow-up of students is punctuality. Some of the students, today you see them in school, tomorrow they are not there. When you want to follow them up, most of the times their parents do believe in what they say more than what the school says. So that alone is enough reason to make a drop.
Now, the GCE witnessed a drop, you mentioned, of about 7% or so. You already talked about some of the reasons for the somehow low percentage of performance. Can you explain a little further on parental obligation and social media influence? How can that be handled properly at the level of the family, to be more precise?
A parent, you're supposed to be a part and parcel in your child's upbringing, especially academics. So as a parent, when your child comes to school, you're supposed to see into it that the child copies notes. How will you do that? When they return, we understand that the demand of a parent is too demanding. When you return from work, you need to go through your child's books to see whether they have copied notes, they have done their assignments, and if those assignments have not been done, try to see if you can help them. If you can't help them, you get someone who can help them. The next issue is, from time to time, visit your child's school. See that the child is actually in school. Get information from the school authority, from the child's teachers. Get inquiries about your child, because that alone is enough reason. Then there is one other thing that I almost forgot, is the child's friends. Who is your child moving with as a friend? Try to also know the family the child comes from. So when you get to have a mastery of your child or a good follow-up of your child, it affects the child's performance a lot.
Now, Madam Melody, most fingers seem to be pointing more at the social media, but the students need phones for research at times. Times are evolving. How can that be properly canalized? Does it mean, like, all of us, we are at the crossroad when it comes to social media usage?
If we want to look at what the minister tries to improve, is to see that the children have easy way to study. And when we talk of the easy way to study, because studies now has been digitalized. If a child does not have a textbook, but once the child has data, and sometimes you can download some of these lessons and see them and have them online, offline, everything is going to go smoothly. But there is one other thing our minister hasn't really done, which is like to put a code. If the child goes to the internet that is for research, maybe the students, like what the whites do, there should be a kind of code that once a child is there for research, it's research. The child cannot go to other apps. Then when we talk of social media too, I think that parental guidance is highly important. Yes. It's highly important for the improvement of the child's study. If you give your child a phone, the child should have periods that he or she has a phone. And during these periods that they do have a phone, let somebody be there that from time to time they can follow up this child. Because if it is in school that the child is using a phone, because sometimes we have teachers that will ask them to bring phones for them to work, you see that there is that guidance. There is a follow-up. So if the child says, I'm studying on phone, from time to time, whether an educated parent or not, they should see into it that truly the child is studying.
But now there is this worry. How can we be blaming everyone? But the students themselves, they also contributed greatly to the mediocre results, madam, didn't they?
You are very correct, but I believe every child has the right to opportunities. When I talk of opportunities, these children should be made to understand that they themselves can do it. If you look at most schools, or I should not blame schools, I should say individuals, they don't make these children to believe in themselves. And sometimes these students are blamed for the little errors that they commit. And most moments, other than criticizing these students for what they do, for example, a child may write an exam and the child fails. If I were to be a parent at that point in time, once your child has failed the first time, is for you to see what caused this child to fail. Now you try to get into seeing that the errors that were committed by this child is improved, other than believing that a child cannot do it. And then most of us should also understand that we have fast learners, we have medium learners, and we have slow learners. The fact that A performs better than B does not mean that B cannot do it. So there are some of them that they need a lot of time put into reading before they can adapt and be able to reproduce. Why some, through lectures, will do it. So the next issue is, let every child understand the capability, the potential that they have, and then they will be able to go about it.
And now, before we talk on the students who failed and how that can be handled, We also noticed that the Northwest, which usually tops the list, this time around was 9th or so. How can that be explained and also understood?
I'll first of all start with those who failed. To me, I always call failure another reason to make it right. Once you fail, you can rise on your feet. So for all the candidates who did fail this session, it's not the end of time. There is another opportunity. Get to understand where your errors are coming from, work on those errors, and come back to right next year as a warrior who is ready for battle. Then for the parents, I told the few parents that I've gotten to speak with that no parent should shout at any child that has failed. Whether the child was studying or not, they shouldn't shout at them, because that gives them room for them to go taking things that are not good to kill themselves. We need them alive. It's always an opportunity. And then for those who made it, I'll tell you congratulations, because the GCE this year, I actually know that those who passed actually deserve the pass.
Now, you were just talking on trying to console those who actually didn't make it and congratulating those who passed the GCE. Now, can we come to the Northwest region, the performance of the Northwest region? This time around, we noticed that the Northwest was somehow below, like down there, the 9th. What might be some of the reasons before you talk about the center you headed during the examinations?
I, for one, I come from the Northwest, and being somebody from the Northwest background right from birth, I would say it's highly an educational zone, because you're motivated by everybody around you. Everybody sees the need to study. So if the Northwest has dropped at this point in time, if the Northwest has actually dropped at this point in time, truth be told, studying in insecurity is not the best. So most of those factors, as the crisis zone, today there's school, tomorrow there's no school, and probably you may even see the active population, let me say the teachers, that are viable enough that we're teaching them. Now some of them may have gone for greener pastures, others have had other reasons not to be there to teach these children, and most of the times you see them learning on their own. So there is just every reason for their studies to be affected. And I'll go further to even say I have a student here that while I was teaching, some of them came up and gave me their experiences. They are coming from the Northwest and Southwest, and they told me, Madam, my grandfather was shot in front of me. Others were said their houses were burnt in front of them. Psychologically it disturbs. Then imagine those that are in the Northwest going through such experiences. It becomes very difficult to study.
Njita Eloti Epus Mudo, thank you so much for accepting to be our guest on Talking Point tonight. You are the Vice Principal of Atlanta Bilingual Comprehensive College in Bonaberi here in Douala, and also you headed the Examination Center. Thank you for being our guest, and hope to have you some other time. Viewers, thank you so much for being with us. That does it for this edition of the news. Don't go away. Our programs continue. Equinoxe in about 30 minutes, and the news in the French language comes up at 8 p.m. Stay with us on Equinoxe Television. See you tomorrow, God willing. Bye-bye for now.